Good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the e-NABLE Town Hall meeting for September 4th, 2015. This is the weekly meeting where team leads and community members are able to update the community on what's happening. I'm Justine Diamond, your host for this week's meeting. Please remember that you can ask questions through the Q&A feature, which is on the left-hand side of your screen. If you're watching on a certain devices, such as an iPad, you may find you can't access the Q&A. Questions can also be posted to the comments on the event page, and we will try to monitor that as we go on and either answer those questions here or put an answer in the comments. So I thought we'd start with the calendar events. You can find the e-NABLE calendar on the events page of the enablethefuture.org website. If you have any questions about any of the events listed, or if you have an event that should be listed on the calendar, please let me know by emailing me at events.enable@gmail.com. This past weekend was the Cincinnati Maker Faire with Greg Dennison and Luke. If you missed your chance to meet them there, they're going to be at the Louisville Mini Maker Faire, which is in Kentucky, on September 19th. September 5th, tomorrow, is the Brighton Maker Faire in the UK. Christopher Hills is heading that up, and ITV covered this and just did a short piece on it, which I believe has been posted to the community or will be posted to the community very soon. On September 10th, Cedric Gorman will be at the 3D Printing Forum in Lower Hutt, New Zealand, and I think that that is our first ever e-NABLE presence at an event in New Zealand. September 12th is the Orlando Maker Faire, where we have representation in two areas, headed up by Keith Johnson and Laird Popkin. Laird recently did an e-NABLE TED Talk. There's a link to that in the community, and I would absolutely check that out because he did a great job. September 18th to 19th is Bots in the Parkland in Farmington, Missouri. We've got Bruce Davies teaching a CAD workshop for FIRST Robotics competition team members. A lot of times, FIRST Robotics team members actually do projects for e-NABLE during their off-season. September 18th to 20th is the Capital District Printathon in Albany. We're going to have the e-NABLE Sienna team and Joseph Fairley there. And on this, John Scholl is also going to be doing a presentation on the 20th at noon. On September 20th, Ellen Durda is holding an e-NABLE event at the Hollow Hills Library out on Long Island. And if you go to that, you'll get to meet me and my husband, John, because we're going to be doing that presentation. On September 23rd, John Scholl will be speaking at the second annual Maxim Experience Summit. That will bring us into the World Maker Faire on the 26th and the 27th in New York City. John Scholl will be presenting on the big stage first thing in the morning on the 26th, and e-NABLE Hades Mohit Chandri will also be doing a presentation. So we've got great coverage there. September 26th to the 29th is the NACD Global Board Summit, and John Scholl will be speaking at 9 in the morning on the Sunday. We seem to keep putting John on stage very early in the morning. October's filling up as well, and I'll be getting to that in the coming weeks. With media coverage, I don't know if you all saw the Time piece that was recently published. I put a link to that in the community. So I would recommend you check that out. Greg and Luke Dennison to continue to get great coverage from the Ultimaker piece that came out. And that's been picked up by quite a lot of other outlets. If you see any articles about e-NABLE, please remember to post them to the Google site. And that's it for me, so I'll hand it over to Melina.
So some of you know that this week John Wong has been visiting my family, and we all know John Wong. He's here through Sunday, and we've taken this opportunity to visit a local school. This afternoon we'll be giving our 6th presentation this week, so including another one from last week, that's 7 in 7 days. I encourage everybody to, even if you don't have a printer, you can still visit your children's school or other local schools, and it's amazing to see the children's faces when you tell them about what we do. And it's a great opportunity to not only share what we do as a whole, but bring up the idea of differences and how that's acceptable, to try to make it easier for those kids that do have the struggle of day-to-day life with the other children that just don't understand. So it's you'll always have those 2 or 3 children that you actually get to see the light turn on, and they get it and they understand, and you know that they're going to carry this forth as they move through school and share what we do with other people. So, and through this, we've gotten some teachers that want to become involved, and we'll be working to get printers for their own classrooms. And we've got some parents that want to become involved now and share what we do with other schools. So it's something to think about when you have some spare time. It only takes a half an hour or so out of your day, and you can really impact those that are growing up with this as such a new technology, so they can learn it now and increase what we do and expand on what we do, because they have such brilliant ideas. So as I said, we'll be going back and doing another one this afternoon. And that has been the highlight of the week this week. I also have something I'll share soon from one of our volunteers, has been creating new versions of gauntlets for my son to try. It only takes a half. And he has eliminated the screws on the tension block, which is pretty amazing because it's the most simple thing to adjust the tension with the way that he has done it. There's no retying, there's no adjusting screws. You just pop out a bead and move it into a place and pop it back in. So that is all I have for this week.
Thank you very much. I see that Rich Lehrer has joined us, who's heading up the Education Exchange. Rich, do you want to update everybody?
Sure, thanks, Justine. That was great, Melina. Thank you actually for sharing that. I love the idea of e-NABLE volunteers getting into classrooms and just spreading the word about not only what we're doing, but also the educational benefits. So things continue to roll in our e-NABLE Educators Exchange. We have new teachers and schools and educators coming on board every day. Nothing real new to report since our kickoff of our initiative a little over a week ago, but I really encourage anybody out there who is knows of schools that might be interested or is a teacher or affiliated with a school in some way, please check out the Enabling the Future website, and if you go to the Get Involved tab, you'll see some information about joining our what we term our E3 STEAM, and yeah, we're just seeing great participation from teachers from now 2nd grade all the way up to postdoc students. So thanks for giving a little shout out to just getting into the classroom there, Melina, and people can see my contact information on the website. That's the e3coordinator.enable@gmail.com, and just contact me if you are interested in becoming involved as a teacher, or if you know somebody who might be interested in being part of our group. Thanks a lot.
Can I ask a few questions of our previous guests? I'm sort of interested in understanding what Melina and John Wong's script is when they visit the classroom. I'm asking not just some interested, because I suspect that other volunteers would find the framework helpful. And I'm also interested in hearing from Rich as to whether there's been any notable specific activity in the E3 initiative that's worth sharing with the crowd.
When we go, we generally start, we have the printer out and all the kids are oohing and eyeing, and we have the hands there for them to kind of peruse and get interested. And then we go into explaining to them the numbers of volunteers and how amazing it is that so many people join in together to do this with such beautiful heart, and it can actually impact the world in a small way, but everyone together makes such a huge splash. And we cover with them the statistics of the children born with limb differences, and then we start explaining to them what it means to be different in that way, and how that difference is no more, it doesn't change anyone other than someone's hair is blonde and someone's hair is brown, and we bring it onto their level where they can actually understand, and then explain to them that, you know, sometimes you see someone that has a difference that you just don't understand and it's unusual to you, but you have to realize that at heart they're the same person as you are, and that treating them the same as you treat everyone else is the most important thing, because that impacts their life. And it can also impact yours, because you could meet this beautiful friend that you thought maybe was a little strange to start with, but they have a lot to offer. And part of it, we bring in about the animals that have been helped, and the houses that are 3D printed, to show them how big this can be. And we give them time to review the hands and play with them, because that's what they want to do. And they want to put them on and play. And then we go into with the teachers and explain to them how they can become involved. And we show them the 3D printer printing something that is, we print the little heart hands. So it prints in the time that we have allotted for us to speak. So it's finished at the end, and they're amazed that it comes off this roll and then creates something, because they don't understand. All the kids are like, well, where does it come out when it's done? Because they're thinking of putting a piece of paper in a copier. And it's just, so many of them, I think we only had 2 kids that had ever experienced a 3D printer in this whole week. So all of them are just amazed that you can do this. And it started, the class today, it started them on this journey in their head of, what can I do? What can I do with this? How can this change? And you can just see their eyes light up, and it's this beautiful thing. So I think the important thing is, depending on what age you're talking to, is making what you're saying and what your topic is age specific, where they understand and they get it, because we don't want to talk over their head. And then you can actually impact them, and they carry that away. And so many of them, when we talked to them about the differences and how it was okay, you could see they understood, and it changed their perspective of things. And on a personal note, since it is my children's school, I was able to address some of the kids that had teased my child. And yesterday, one in a generic way, but one of the little girls yesterday said, "Is Ethan famous?" And one of the little boys that had been teasing him said, "Yeah, he is." So I'm in this way, I'm able to help out with some of his adjustment with school and some of the things that go on. But even if you don't have a child that is affected in this way, going to the school and explaining that to the children, because a lot of them are just so curious. It's not that they want to tease someone and treat them bad. They just don't understand. And all too often, the teachers don't want them to ask questions because they're afraid it's going to hurt someone's feelings, but they need to ask those questions so they understand why something is the way it is, and they understand that it's okay, because if they keep that locked inside, it comes out in a negative way. And we want it to be positive. Because we're never shy about explaining. The questions are always welcomed, because children should understand it. There's so many differences they're going to come in contact with, and if you can explain one difference, then they know how to react to other differences they come with. And and that's the gist of it. It's making sure that you're talking to that age level, and you're actually addressing it in a way that they understand.
Boy, am I glad I asked. That was really interesting. Thank you.
Maybe I can also add, so my son Max starts in pre-K this coming Tuesday, and Melina, that's really great information. So Max is already sort of known at our school as the kid with the really cool hand, so I'm really heartened to hear the response from Ethan's classmates as well. So I'll be looking for those sorts of experiences as well in about 3 days. So John had just asked a little bit about to fill on some of the specifics of the educational activity. We have just a number of different schools and colleges that have come on board. I should mention, as I was just talking about Max, so he was involved in a filming of a piece by WGBH, that's the Boston PBS affiliate. So they're creating a program called Design Squad Global, which will in the next couple of years have a reach around the world, teaching students about engineering, and they found the e-NABLE story very compelling. So they filmed a little piece with not only Max, but one of my 8th grade students who, on his own from start to finish, not only printed the pieces of the hand, but also created the hand, which I think I shared last week was just really affirming in terms of seeing if an 8th grade student can go from start to finish with almost limited input from me to construct a hand, then we can, with teachers working in their classrooms helping, we can certainly broaden the ages of the students that are working on this. So certainly the Design Squad Global, personally speaking, was a big one for me. That they're forecasting a reach of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in a couple of years when they launch. WGBH received a big NSF grant to just promote engineering around the world, and so that's a bit far off, but we should see some interesting reach on that. Also, we are about to post an article in a journal called The International Educator. So I wrote that article this week, and they're looking for a release in the next 3 weeks or so. And essentially, that's a journal that goes to all international schools around the world. And just part of our global scaling of what we do, we're going to see, I'm sure, I'm already seeing this, but I'm sure we're going to see even more international schools becoming involved, not only in terms of just involving their individual schools, but also in terms of becoming little nodes of involvement around the world. And what we're really hoping to do is take American international schools and have them be sort of the spreaders of the message of e-NABLE and also the work, and getting other schools involved around the world. So that should be an exciting one. Along the lines also of the global scaling of the education initiative, I had a great conversation this week with folks from the GEMS World School in Chicago, and the GEMS is a network of schools around the world, over 70 schools, and they're interested in possible scaling of having e-NABLE in their schools as well. And this is not just in the U.S., it's throughout the Middle East and Africa and Asia. So we're looking at a pilot at the school in Chicago, and then if that goes well, hopefully broadening that work to their network. We also had a really interesting couple of exchanges, both from Arizona State and Texas A&M. We have very interested folks there that are interested not only in just the building of hands and the disseminating of hands, but also the R&D side of things. I've been having some great conversations with Magda Lagudis at Texas A&M. She runs an engineering class, sort of a combined engineering and service learning class for freshmen, and so she launched her project this week, and I'm really anxious to see how it went. She has her students building 15 hands as part of a pilot, and then is hoping to really broaden that work. So that was really exciting. And the last little thing that I would share, so if anybody saw our kickoff on the 26th, there was a presentation by Nisha Rahim from Level Up Village, and I decided this week I would take her up on her offer of connecting schools in the U.S. to schools in developing countries. So we're possibly looking at bringing a school in Rwanda on board. This is the school I've been affiliated with just through doing different STEM collaborations, but they've been very excited about the prospect of becoming involved in 3D printing. So we are in the middle of a conversation about getting a 3D printer there and establishing an e-NABLE presence in East Africa, which is really exciting. So we'll see where that goes.
Again, I think in a future life I'm going to be a talk show host, because all I have to do is ask, and all of these wonderful stories pour out. That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Great. I should just mention I also have 8th graders here that I have to go attend to before they. So we're back in session. So I'm about to be in the company of some 8th graders. So I'm afraid I have to leave now. But I just wanted to follow up just what John said. I think the things that we had anticipated with the Educators Exchange are now coming to fruition. Every day when I log into my email, there's connections from a couple of other people that either saw the Hangout or the word got passed to them, or they saw our presence on the Google Plus community. So really exciting to see the continued involvement, and thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Rich, you don't have to answer this now, but I'm curious as to when the next Hangout will be for the E3 initiative.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm actually planning, so the Buck Institute for Education is a group that I'm involved in. They're the leading purveyors of project-based learning around the world. They're interested in putting together a Hangout to launch just the project-based learning side of this. So I've actually been involved also in a little bit of curriculum writing the last week, which is something that I come to naturally, but I guess I hadn't necessarily had the time to be able to do that. So So I'm doing some curriculum writing for them, and we're hoping for an October launch of just the PBL piece of that. So I'm hoping that we can possibly fold in a e-NABLE Educators Exchange Town Hall with the Buck Institute for Education and have maybe a combined launch. So more information about that as we figure it out.
That's great.
Okay, we have
Thank you.
a couple of questions. Scott Darrow first says, great info from Melina and Rich. He wants to know, I assume this is for you, Melina, how many 3D printers do you have there? Just the one. I assume that's at the school. And before you answer that, his final question is about a link to the little hands you print in the classroom. And I will take care of, I'll put a link to that in the comments for the Hangout as soon as we're done. Okay, so that will be taken care of. So that goes to you, Melina, with the question about how many printers you've got with the classroom stuff.
Well, the intermediate school that we're going to now, they don't have any printers. Our middle school and high school in my area, they do have printers. So these kids are being introduced to it now through us coming to the school, and it's a group of classes called enrichment that these children have to be tested and they go into it. And that particular teacher is going to use her budget to purchase a 3D printer for her program, and hopefully be able to draw the other kids that aren't in that program into it as well and spread it through the school. So that these younger children will have some experience with it, and she wants to get them on Tinkercad so they can take the lessons and everything before they make it to middle school and have the opportunity to be involved with those printers. So right now I'm just taking my printer to the school, and I've left it there all week instead of bringing it back and forth, so that we can show them how it works and everything, and we can explain it to them, and they get a rough idea of what to expect once their classroom does have one. So that's an option. And even if you don't have a printer, if you could set up with a teacher to put it on her screen if they have those in the class, or just a laptop, and show them a video of a printer printing, and then you can explain to them how it works, that would work as well, because I know I just recently got a printer, so there's some of us that don't have access to them. But a lot of these special programs, and even the younger schools, they have a budget. So if you can show them the benefit of it to the children, they can make those funds available to be able to purchase them, even though it's not directly through the school system itself. And there's also grants that can be had that teachers have accessible to them to ask for help purchasing special items like this for their classrooms.
Thank you very much. We've got one other question, which unfortunately is for Rich, and he's just left. And that's that Nancy Court asks if he'll be providing meeting notes for the future E3 STEAM meetings, and if not, she may want to volunteer for that. And Nancy, I'll pass that information on to Rich, and we will be in touch with you. But thank you very much. Next, we have a surprise guest in that John Wong is with Melina, so we're going to have him say a few words. So it'll be Melina's picture, but it's going to be John who's talking.
A few words.
Two.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm here in Opelika, where it's nice and toasty, but it's good to be here. Obviously, if you've kind of been following me on Facebook, I've been doing a lot of traveling. Did a cross-country road trip for a friend to help them move to Austin, Texas. But I've also been in China as well. And so some of the stuff I've been working on for the group is I am involved with a youth center in the Bay Area where it is at-risk youth, where we're trying to basically pay the kids to come off the streets to stay out of trouble, and also teach them technology, 3D printing. They have a laser cutter there, a vinyl cutter, things like that. So, one of the program directors had heard about e-NABLE, actually had met me at a high school fair and wanted to get involved. So we've been kind of working on that. They've been applying for grants and whatnot, and so they want to make it a project-based learning kind of environment, and e-NABLE is one of them. So I've offered to donate some hand kits to them. Once they get some hands printed, they do have some RepRap printers, very small, but Type A machines is also on the council. which I'm also a member of, and Type A has offered to donate a printer as well. And there's some other people, some other local companies that are offering to help out. A tie into that is that I'm having an event at Kaiser Hospital in Fremont this weekend on Saturday, and so we're trying to get some more of the health industry kind of involved to help fund this program. It is a nonprofit, but they do have the backing of the city government there, but obviously they need more help, and so that's something that I'm working on. I'm hopefully once we get that up and running, that can be a blueprint for other places throughout the Bay Area, and maybe even throughout the U.S. and abroad. But I'm pretty sure other people are doing it as well. So I don't want to really reinvent the wheel, if other people have already done that. And so we would like to kind of, borrow from others. I've already shared with them, the E3, hangout. She's already looked at it, and, she's gleaned a lot of good information. I think we may be borrowing from Emily's curriculum that she built, the 7-week course. But beyond that, while I was in China, I was in Shanghai, I had met someone at the Bay Area Maker Faire back in May, and they invited me to come to Hangzhou, which is about an hour's away. So if you think of Shanghai like New York, Hangzhou is like Boston. And so I was invited there by a company called Magic Firm, and they make a 3D printer. Their first one was called the Cube, but I think they had a cease and desist, I think, from 3D Systems. So now they call it the MBot. So if you guys want to check out, it's M as in Mary bot 3D.com. They want to work with us. Obviously, they're located in China, and they've offered to do translations and things like that. And obviously, with them, making hands, having to ship them, abroad is going to be cost prohibitive. So I'm going to be working with Melina, and I've been emailing with you, the Asia coordinator, as far as how many recipients we have in China, and let's try to see how this company can help, as far as producing these hands locally. They're a 3D printer manufacturer, so they have these printers that sit idle, and that's been kind of the sell that I've been talking to these these companies. If you have these 3D printers that basically you do all these hours of QA, why don't you just test out parts of hands for us? And if it just so happens that you have all the pieces of of one full hand, then there you go. You've helped make one hand, and whether or not you assemble it or not, you've already helped make a difference. And so it's been a fairly easy sell. It's just a matter of getting all these different companies kind of on board to do that. And so I've been in talks with them, and I was just in China about a week and a half ago. So it's we really haven't had a lot of time to kind of correspond back and forth. They've needed to do some internal discussions as far as how much they want to commit themselves to it. But they want to help their brand grow, and I said, well, in order to do that, you're going to have to be willing to donate some printers, so that our guys can help test them out. Obviously, we have Jason Bryant in China that is local to them somewhat, that would be able to help out. But I think that's one of the hurdles that they have to get through is for themselves, be able, in order to get themselves out there, they have to give us a few 3D printers so that we know that they're the quality of the prints are good. They seem good, but obviously I'm not an expert. So I would think having 2 or 3 out there that others can test for themselves, then we can kind of get other people's feedback. But they have a program called Teach out there. It's very similar to the STEM and STEAM, which they already have a presence in a lot of schools. So that's something that they're very eager to kind of work with us on as well. And so these are kind of discussions that I've been having.
And there he goes.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone there?
We are here.
Yeah, so I think once we get a little bit further along, I will need someone's help kind of wrangling them in, and maybe getting them as an official partner or whatnot. Obviously, they're very eager, and I think we have, I don't know, 5 billion people in the country of China, but and we have some need for devices there, although from what I understand, more arms, but it seems that they have the capacity and the capability to be able to produce large amounts. It's just what sort of resources they want to put towards that, aside from their day job. I think other than that, besides the Kaiser event, we have an event at Stanford that's happening at the same time as the World Maker Faire. So as much as I would love to be in New York, I have to be at that. And there's another event at UCSF Medical Center in the Bay Area as well. So I think that's it for me as far as this month. Who knows what's going on next month? But that's kind of what I've been doing for e-NABLE. Happy to do my part. I know it's just a small part, but I think together, we're doing what we can. So
we're doing a lot more than we can.
So I think that's it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm normally not awake this early. This is 2 hours ahead. I'm normally kind of still asleep. So. But I'm glad to be, to be able to kind of chime in on this. So,
thanks, John.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. That was really good to hear from you, and it's always good to get an update from people in the community. And so that brings us to Maria. Are you ready? Maria?
When last seen, Maria was driving her car.
She was.
Here we go. Sorry.
There we go.
All right.
Unmuting. Hello.
Hello.
We've had registrations for the conference, including registrations from families who are also applying to receive a hand at the conference. So I just wanted to remind people who are in that category to make sure that you go to the Enabling the Future website and apply to receive a device. That would include getting the photographs and submitting the measurements so that we know that it's the right device for you, and that what's being printed for you is and that you'll assemble at the conference is going to fit. So I wanted to encourage all of you to make sure that you went through both processes. Two things that really stood out for me this week that also came out of the E3 is that we heard from a group in Australia who is taking the 1,000 hand challenge very seriously and is mobilizing, and that it's lit a fire there, and that also it's a lit a fire with people who are interested in research and development and testing. And so there's a wonderful group that runs the first Lego League and first Technology Challenge for the state of New York. It's tapping into groups that engage in that competition in a national way, and they've challenged other teams to print and to assemble a hand, and teams that can't print, they've contacted us asking for help getting them hand kits that are being printed so they can be part of our greater challenge, carrying over the social mission of the first Lego League and first Technology Challenge by adopting the e-NABLE cause, which was really beautiful. There's so many people in that group that are engaged in teaching manufacturing, or engaged also with academic or industrial research and manufacturing, that it's a whole new group of people who are interested in our process and engaging in it, but also in contributing to it. And I see this as being a huge contribution to our plans for opening up the bottleneck that we sometimes have with the testing process, but also creating a testing process that will really demonstrate the effectiveness of the different designs and getting them reviewed and released if possible. So I wanted to just report on those two aspects of our community.
Thank you very much. I think next up we have a special guest, and that would be Ivan Owen, if he's ready. Ivan?
Oh, I suppose so.
Yay!
I have to admit here. I'll go live here. That because I've been very remiss in not going to many of these meetings, I'm unsure as to the format or what I should even speak about.
Well, the format is what we've been, updates and so on, what we've been doing.
Actually, I have a request for Ivan. Ivan, if you could speak just a little bit off the top of your head, obviously, about the kind of vision that you, Andreas, Evan, and Scott Summit have and share and are hoping to work towards making happen, because it fits pretty well within the scope of the Google grant. And while we haven't figured it all out, we're definitely going to work somewhat to realize that vision using some of those funds at least.
Okay. I will start a timer here and make sure that I don't consume very much time. I apologize for not being prepared because my intention was just to come and lurk and listen. But in essence, as far as a vision from a technical perspective, and this is all very pie in the sky theoretical things that could very well come into existence with present technology. But as Marla said, there are no concrete plans at this stage as to make all of this happen. What could conceivably be created in the near future would be something along the lines of a integrated cell phone application that helps with processing intake and device management, let's say. So sort of like what the Handomatic app does currently, could be extended to a mobile platform. And then there could be a process through which, let's say, the app assists with things like, since these devices have accelerometers in them and can tell when they're level, it can facilitate taking a picture from exactly above. Therefore, there's no issues in perspective with the picture from it being slightly tilted. It can then transmit that photograph to somebody to then go through the process of doing scaling or matching to a particular device. This could be, so sorry if I back up a little bit. So workflow for a theoretical app would be take photograph, gather measurements, send that off. It's then used to parametrically scale a particular device. This facilitates then data transfer to a printer somewhere in the world with somebody operating it, where the device is fabricated and then can be either sent as a kit of parts if a recipient wants to assemble it themselves, or could be delivered as a finished item. So, and this is not incredibly far-fetched as far as state of the technology, because this sort of a proposed model relies upon technologies that are all already in existence. So that's sort of a grand technical vision as far as intake. As far as, we did have some side discussions on hand technology or prosthetics technology in general. Of course, there's the avenue for the continued improvement of body-powered devices. Also on the near horizon, I would estimate within the next 5 years, we're going to see, because there's multiple people working on this in different places around the world currently, the advent of extremely low-cost myoelectric and body-powered devices. Myoelectric motor-driven devices. So the field of options, let's say, will continue to expand as well.
Pretty good for off the top of your head.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, we've got John, and he has a special guest with him as well. So, John?
Yes, special guest is Peregrine Hawthorne, and if he's ready, I will invite him to talk about a really cool idea he had for the conference, which I had to remind him to put on his calendar. But we're going to have an event at the conference specifically for recipients and their families. Forgive me, Maria, but I've forgotten what we call it, something like the recipient's retreat. which will involve a number of activities where we can really engage the kids and the adults who are recipients in really advancing our ability to do what we try to do. So Peregrine, as you all know, Peregrine is leading hand model for this device. You should also tell people about this device and then what you propose for the conference.
Yeah. So first, I think first I'll go into the conference because I could talk about this for days. Sort of a collaboration idea between me and my dad. Sort of a handoff, if you will. Say you get maybe, I'd say 5 or 6 would be feasible, but as many as we could, recipients, and then give each of them, say, 3 or 4 different hand models, and then let them loose on a just like a set of tasks to do, and try to measure how well they do with each individual hand model. Basically try to get them actually get each model compared next to all the other models out there, so we can really get an idea of where we're at, how each hand stacks up against the others, and where they all lie there, and how to move forward from that.
So I think that's really cool. I could imagine a contest where a prize would both go to the fastest kid and to the bestest hand, and as they mixed and matched, would get data on all of those things. I think it's a fun idea.
Yeah, and you could have some model, like if we could figure out a way to test just like how hard can you squeeze this object to, can you stack all these blocks on top of each other. I think there's already some tests out there for testing dexterity and usefulness of hands, just to see maybe implementing some of those in that.
Right, so that will also get us to prepare a battery of tests that we can work on. And actually, Gloria Gogola and Jorge's team can probably help us identify those tests, although you can also help us identify those tests. The kids can identify some of those tests. Little Lucy thinks that cup stacking is one of the most important activities in the world, and she's gotten really good at it with her arm. So that, might be an example of something the kids are into. That's great.
And yeah, and also just to get an idea of where all hands lie, what they can do in relation to each other. I think a lot of the hands that we end up putting on people are, a maker sees a hand that looks nice and looks easy to make, and then they put it on a kid, and then that's the hand that the kid knows, and that's what they get, without really much consideration of the things like how different hands fit or what kind of capabilities each model has. And I think this would be a good way to get some more information on that, because right now it's very difficult to even know how they stack up against each other.
What are the alternatives and how well do they work? Which is, of course, also the kind of data we are collecting in connection with the Google grant, and indeed the results and the feedback that we get from that contest, those activities, the interviews that we do around that, because you'll have suddenly created a bunch of recipients who are now able to provide comparative judgments about these different devices. All of that information becomes input to the design challenges that we're doing in the schools through Rich's program and at Autodesk University in December. So it's as if we had a grand plan, only better, because we don't.
That's about as far as I've gotten with this.
Cool.
This was me and my dad talking about this over the weekend when we were together for his conference.
I should also say that Peregrine is going to be following in Elizabeth Jackson's footsteps at the Virtus School, the Rochester charter school, where we have been training kids to become hand assemblers. And that's going to be great for him. It's going to be great for them. It's also going to be great for some other as yet unidentified person who's going to be doing the Monday and Wednesday shift, or vice versa. And all of that will really feed into what is becoming this really vast network of interlinking projects. I jokingly said it's like we don't have a plan, but the truth is we have a plan, and it seems to be, it includes having these initiatives spread and interlink with a little bit of coaching or pushing from the foundation, but a lot of self-organizing activity by the community, which perhaps is my cue. You don't get to talk about the hand this time, young man. We're just back from an off-site retreat for the e-NABLE Community Foundation. That is to say, Ivan Owen, Marla Parker, and me are the current board members. We were joined by Maria, who is directing programs and all sorts of things for the foundation these days, at the home of Grace Mistali, who's probably listening in, has been attending many of these town hall meetings, who, it turns out, is an even more astoundingly qualified and experienced administrator, executive, development, press, etc. experienced person. She has been a regular in Washington, D.C. in the Department of Justice and other areas. She's a champion of the ADA. She currently consults with for-profit companies and non-profit companies, and she has really helped us understand the difference between a foundation like the e-NABLE Community Foundation and the community, and the importance, and this is really hard for me and probably for many of us, of understanding that difference and disambiguating them and teasing them apart. Which is to say, the foundation's primary mission is and will ever be, I think, to support the community. It's not like we have different goals. But in fact, the way the foundation has to go about it is quite different from the way the community goes about it. The community is a bunch of people who are doing what they want to do because they want to do it in ways which the foundation does not control, but for which the foundation can become a great resource. There are many things the foundation wants to do and should do to support the community. And there are a few things the foundation has already been lucky enough to get funding to do. And with that funding, and with the legal obligations that come with being a 501c3, and the legal obligations that come with accepting funding money in the tune of a number of hundreds of thousands of dollars, there are a certain number of things which are part of our mission, which we have been funded to do. There are other things that are part of our mission which we have not yet been funded to do. That means we in the foundation need to start adopting the organizational discipline, and that includes all sorts of accounting and reporting and all sorts of other things which do not come naturally to some of us. There are certain things that we are actually now obligated to do and motivated to do really well, not just because they're important parts of our mission, but because when we can demonstrate that when given a grant to achieve certain specific goals and objectives, we can come through and deliver the goods as promised. When we have established our bona fides as people able to follow through on our promises to funders, it will help us get more funding for other parts of our mission. that means that a certain discipline is incumbent upon us. And right now, that discipline has to do with organizing to satisfy the goals, objectives, and wishes of our current funders, and getting well organized to attract additional funds to meet other pieces of our mission. That was the foundation president impersonating a foundation president, which is my official job to do. Let me say I'm also the founder, and I'm incredibly proud of being able to say I am the founder of the e-NABLE community. I'm also a member of the e-NABLE community, but right now I'm going to continue to talk as the foundation president about the e-NABLE community. By the way, I'm the founder, but you know, Ivan and I have a running joke where I say he baited the hook and I bit. So here we are. The community, as I said earlier, is its own thing, and it is blessed by community members like Rich Lair, like Peregrine Hawthorne, like John Wong, who are opening up all sorts of possibilities for us all collectively, and doing all sorts of things. The outstanding and by far most promising piece of the community is the Enabling the Future website, which is the heartfelt and spectacular work of Jen Owen. It's a really good example of a difference between what the foundation does and what the community does. This is something that Jen has been pouring her heart into. It is the way, I'm going to guess, most people become aware and come to understand what we really do. And it is just a spectacular piece of work for which Jen deserves immense credit and immense thanks. It's a good example of something that is not a product of the foundation, which is the very essence of what we are trying to support and promote. So I've tried to do two things in today's little sermon. I want to demonstrate that we all need to become a little bit clearer about the goals and activities of the foundation, foremost of which is to support the community, and the goals and activities and heroes of the community who actually don't work for the foundation, and to use this as an opportunity to celebrate, in fact, one of the great products of the community and one of the great contributors to the community, Jen Owen, who has just done this amazing work on the Enabling the Future website and is going to continue to do that. And so, you know, we get to thank one person at most for a meeting. This is Jen's meeting. Thank you and congratulations, Jen, on just an amazing achievement. This is, you know, this whole thing turns out to be one of the most important and rewarding things any of us will ever do, and you should be really proud of what you've done, Jen.
Thank you very much.
I'm done.
Just before we go, we've got a couple of other questions that came in. Keith Johnson, who will be heading up our presence at the Orlando Maker Faire, asked that I remind people that the Maker Faire is 2 days long next weekend, September 12th and 13th. Admission is included for volunteers who can help out at our booth on Saturday or Sunday, and that there's a member mixer there for the volunteers on Friday at 6 p.m. You can get in touch with him through the Google Plus community. And there was one other one, and that's that Rajendran Subramaniam said, Maria, I hope your day is going great. I just following up to see if you had a chance to review my son Nishak's Eagle project proposal he sent for your signature. He's much excited to get his approval from the council and start working. So I'm sure you've been in touch, Maria, but
oh, that reminded, yes, I received that, and I also was having a pancake breakfast. So, I don't know if you could hear, but
yeah, you're breaking up, but the gist is Sorry, you are breaking up, so I will
And
summarize. Yes, Mr.
okay.
Subramanian, we're on the case, and yes, we're also doing something really important and interesting with pancakes.
And I wish luck to the fundraisers using the pancake breakfast for their Eagle project as well. The Eagle Scouts have embraced this as a source for their service, and I applaud all of them and wish them luck.
Okay, thank you very much. Our hour is just about up. I do not see any additional questions. So we will see everybody next week, and happy printing. Bye-bye.